Hello and welcome back to I Create For You. We're in the Yellowstone Ghost Stories for a little switch up. And this next story it's called Of Mammoth Spirits, but there are supposedly different stories within that. So there's like 3 stories. So I'm going to read this and then I'll read the first story and we'll go from there. Of Mammoth Spirits. Have you ever felt something strange for just a moment and then suddenly it was gone? It may have been a ghost. You see, spirits live in many different dimensions that run parallel to ours. Normally, these dimensions do not ever connect with us, but on occasion they do. Think of a dimension as being a radio frequency. Imagine what happens when one of these dimensions or frequencies fluctuates and becomes close to or even bumps into ours. That's usually when a ghost emerges. It may happen once, randomly, or repeatedly. Thus, for a period of time, the ghost becomes part of our world. When a dimension becomes matched perfectly with our dimension, the spirit or spirits can become beings. But this happens very rarely. Usually the match is much less perfect, and the specters appear in transparent forms. More often, there is even a lesser match, and the ghost may only show a sign of presence. This can be a light, sound, smell, touch, chill, or a combination. But these signs are so common, we don't even think of them as being spirits making contact. Of Mammoth Spirits is not one story, but a collection of experiences from park visitors and employees who have seen, heard, touched, and yes, even smelled the spirits of Yellowstone. The first one that we're going to do is Seeing a Light. For those whose lives have been lit by love, it really isn't hard to imagine holding a torch for someone. But how long does one hold this torch? For Ed Wilson, the answer is forever. It's thought Wilson came to Yellowstone in 1885 and worked as a mountaineer assistant. Soon he became an Army Scout, a position he took very seriously. If there were soldiers at the fort who didn't like him, it was because he didn't hesitate to report them if he caught them poaching in the park. There was also a dark side to Ed Wilson, which added to his unpopularity. He spoke of the mysterious and the unseen, and he preferred to travel alone. He nearly always traveled at night, and he would scout in the darkest and fiercest storms. In 1891, Wilson fell in love with Mary Rosetta Henderson, the youngest daughter of G.L. Henderson, a prominent part of Yellowstone's history. But Mary Rose didn't return Wilson's affections. Being in his late 30s, he must have seemed ancient. Mary had the pick of any young soldier and had no doubt heard the strange stories about Wilson. It soon became obvious he had no chance of winning Mary Rose's hand, and on July 27th, he walked uphill in the back of Mammoth Village and poisoned himself. No one knew he left. No one saw him go. When it finally became obvious he was missing, a search was initiated. A year passed before his scantily clothed skeleton was found on the hill where he took his life. There, next to his remains, lay an empty bottle of morphine. Now, more than a century later, there is a faint light that many people have seen on the top of the hill above the Mammoth Hot Springs Village. Both employees and visitors have seen it. It's not there every night, but sometimes, when there is no moon and the black sky is full of stars, Wilson's dimension bumps into ours. The light on the hill is where Ed Wilson sat and decided with a heavy heart that it would be impossible to live without the beautiful Mary Rose. Okay, so we're going to go with that one for now. And I printed out a picture of what the Mammoth Village was like back then. So I'm guessing he may have traveled. There's a hill here, it looks like, but he may have traveled up here. Okay, so Let's see what I can come up with. And don't mind my nails. I got to get my nails done. Well, I do my own nails, but when I have time. So they look kind of crappy right now. But that's neither here nor there. Okay. So we got makeup. Make the hills here. I don't think I have my blender out. I'll have to get it out then. So that's the hills. These are the tree line. Why don't I do this so you can kind of see what I'm getting at here. This is the part that I want to do. And there's some trees down here. My messy tree line. Maybe it'll look better once you use the blending stick. Okay, they have quite a few here going across, almost all across. So we'll just keep doing the trunks here and there, and add them. Okay. A little bit late in videoing today. It's a busy day. Sometimes you just can't do certain things on the weekend because things aren't open. So when Monday comes, you have a full plate. Okay. Now I don't know. I'm not sure that all these buildings were built back then, but I'm not going to go into the buildings. I'm just going to make this different down here. Now they say that he had a light, that there is a light and stuff coming up around there. Let me get Mr. Blendy tool out here, Mr. Magic Maker here. Makes it look more ominous. Okay, so when people are looking up here in this area, they tend to see a light. So what we're going to do is just draw some kind of light here. Not my best idea of a light source, but night sky. This is almost hard to depict this light when you don't have color. You're not using really any color. So do it this way. I wonder if some people would have just thought of it as an orb, or how big and bright it actually was if they saw this up here on the mountain or the hill. No, Doesn't really say how big of a light it was, but people always comment and talk about orbs and things like that. So now there's that little tiny light up there. He's gonna let it shine, let it shine. Okay, I'll stop right there. But that's what Mammoth Hot Springs Village, that's a picture that I printed out of what it is. And his light was shining above the hill, behind the hill where he met his fate. And now a light shines every now and then that people can see. Alrighty, on this one we have, let me see how many more. We have 1, 2, 3 stories here. You know what? I'm just going to read you the next one. I'm not going to do an illustration, but I'll read you the next one, and then the next one I'll do the 2 together like that also. Hearing ghosts of armies past. In 1872, Yellowstone was designated the world's first national park, but this wasn't enough. With no funds allocated for protection, the park was still at the mercy of poachers and souvenir hunters. Finally, in 1886, Captain Moses Harris and a troop of 50 soldiers were sent from Fort Custer and assigned national park duty. The soldiers arrived in Yellowstone late that summer and set up Camp Sheridan at the foot of Capitol Hill at Mammoth. This was to be only a temporary arrangement, but it ended up spanning more than 30 years. With this assignment, Captain Harris became the first military superintendent of the park. In 1890, Congress designated funds for a permanent post at Yellowstone. By this time, Camp Sheridan had grown considerably and was replaced by Fort Yellowstone. The fort was enlarged several times and eventually 4 troops were assigned to it. But the fort had its share of sadness. Soldiers, civilians, and family members died in Yellowstone, and many were buried in the Fort Yellowstone Army Cemetery. In 1916, the National Park Service was created, bringing a bittersweet end to the Army's control. At sunset on July 4, 1916, the old Garrison cannon perched atop Capitol Hill was fired for what was probably the last time. The United States Army then vacated the park, leaving only its ghosts behind. Strangely enough, the Army soon came out and got them too. The very next year, the remains of all military personnel buried in the Fort Yellowstone Army Cemetery were mysteriously dug up and transferred to the military cemetery that was then called Custer's Battlefield in southeastern Montana. Today, the Mammoth Horse Corrals share a hillside with the old Fort Yellowstone graveyard. On occasions, late in the evening, voices can be heard coming from the directions of the old fenced-in graves. The voices are calling for their fathers and husbands and friends who were taken and will never return. That's weird that they don't know how they mysteriously moved all those bodies. I mean, somebody had to see that happening, don't you think? Yeah. I don't think there was much of a mystery there. That doesn't make sense to me, how they dug up all those soldiers and then filled up all those holes and made it look like a mystery. I don't get it. Okay, let's just go out and dig up all these people and see if we can make it look like we were never here. Okay, anywho, we'll have 2 other ones the next time I get into this book. We'll do that, do the other 2. But thank you for stopping by, listening to the stories, and watching me sketch my interpretation of it. And I hope to see you in the next one. Please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, because we got lots of different stories going on. And share if you'd like, comment. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.